Home is where you were born and raised, Rafi.
Oh, come on.
No, listen.
Wait.
How can you say that?
Okay.
Can we agree on something, Rafi?
Yeah.
Home is where the heart is. Where is home?
We'll find the answer with someone new every Friday night from 9 to 10 with Ina.
And Rafi.
Homesick at home.
Have you ever felt that way?
Shot City. I'm coming home again.
And tonight I'm gonna greet everyone just the way Steven used to. Hello, good evening. This is our Friday night English-speaking show, Homesick at Home, on Radio Van 103.1. And tonight we have a very, very special show. We're very excited, a little bit nervous, but we, of course, on the first place, we're happy to see our Steven back.
Steven's back in the studio.
Steven's back.
Back
Now
again.
he's back again. Now he's back. I forgot.
Where were you going with that?
That's cool you guys fit that Shot City in there at the end of the jingle.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for
still
doing
kept
that.
it. That's to the memory of Steven Ox. Okay. Steven, how do you feel on that red couch for the first time in your life, sitting there on air?
I have to say,
Isn't it weird?
it's pretty plush to sit over here on the red couch. I'm feeling like,
And I have red hair.
you have
to
red
fit
hair.
the
Yeah, it's like everywhere I look, you've got the red hair. Rafi's got the red shirt. He's got the red wall behind him. Yeah, the red wall is actually intimidating now that I think about it. I can imagine being quite scared if I came here for the first time and sitting on this couch.
That
The
explains
hot
well.
spot with the hot wall in front of me.
Yeah.
I miss your voice in my ears, Steven.
I miss yours, Ina.
So tell me, Steven, tell us.
Yes.
Where have you been? Where
Oh, yeah,
have you
here we
been?
go. Here
Where
it
the
starts.
where in the world have you been?
That's always the first question when you come home. huh?
Irene kept asking about you. Hello, Irene. if
Hello,
you're
Irene.
listening. And she was
Call us,
asking to
Irene.
bring back the calling option, but we don't have it because we have only 1 hour.
Oh, we
for
only
our
have 1
show.
hour, so no.
The next best
Yeah.
thing, we brought Steven back into the studio for her.
Yeah. So especially for Irene tonight.
Irene, hello. I'm so glad that I get to be on your radio tonight, and I wish you a wonderful, amazing spring evening. You guys are having some amazing weather here in Armenia. I've only been here for, I guess, like it's been just exactly a week because I got here last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just soaking the weather up.
Yeah, it's nice now.
So where
It's
do you come
amazing.
from? Tell us a bit.
Well,
Is
originally
it
I come from
Moscow
Colorado.
you were missing? Ah, okay. Okay. So
Well, you
Colorado
remember
was
how we had
cold?
rehabilitation last year, Ina?
Yeah.
So we had rehab from the holidays. We had this whole episode about how you can rehabilitate after 14 days of harovats and drinking, and then the 14 other days of kind of just sitting at home and wondering what's next. Coming into February when we came back on the show, and it was in the middle of January, I think.
Yeah.
And so just from that experience last year, I thought, well, there's this window of time, and I hadn't been home for a long time. And I thought, well, I'll go home, and we can spend time with my family. Grandparents can see our child, Anna Maria. And
So where do you consider home?
Yeah, where is home?
Where is that home that
oh
you're
God, I
speaking?
did say the word,
You
didn't
did.
I? Uh-huh.
Ding, ding, ding. Flashing lights and sounds
Yeah.
go
It's
off.
like a gong show. You guys are. This format change is a little unexpected. I better take a sip of my
Steven, we
water
love
here.
you. Drink some water and keep going.
Thank you. Home, I realized coming back this time that home is really that place where I think
Where the pillow is.
where the pillow is.
He's got two homes, right? Yeah.
Got my two homes here. Well, yeah. Do I have to answer that question right now?
We can come back. Let's
you
come
can
back to
take
that
your
question. It's a-
time and think of it. It was just, because you mentioned home, that's why I had to ask this question.
Well, you did say that we're nervous tonight, and I do feel a little bit nervous sitting on the red couch. So I think I better think about the answer for a little while.
And for those of you who are new to us, it's new for Steven to be on the red couch this time, because normally he's back behind the microphone, behind the soundboard, controlling the events. So now he's kind of a little bit off his normal game over here.
Yeah, off my normal game, but that's a perfect time to say that any listeners in Armenia or abroad, if you want to see us right now, you can watch us live on www.radiovan.fm.
Thank you, Steven.
The magic of the radio host has not left him. He's back.
And we also have an application which you can download on your smartphones and listen to us anywhere you go.
Anywhere you want to go.
Okay, back to your home.
Do I have time? Do I have time to tell the Georgia story?
We have like 3 minutes,
Yeah,
right?
I can do it. Oh, no, we don't have
1
the
minute?
minutes.
Oh, okay. We have 1 minute, so
Maybe we
just
come back to it then.
something short, and we'll come back to
Yeah,
it
what can I
right
say?
away.
Well, my sister had a birthday, and during the preparations of the birthday, we decided that we wanted to have an ocean theme. And so what we did is we hung a giant balloon over the entrance to my mother's home and had streamers coming off of it to make a giant octopus for her birthday decorations.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a nice
something
idea.
that happened while I was away.
Oh, cool. That was worth it.
Yeah. She was thrilled. Yeah.
She was
I bet.
So are we. So are we. You see, I'm a little nervous as well. And we are so thrilled to see you here in the studio. Honestly, I really missed you. And I think I a little bit annoyed Rafi because I said that every time we were going on air, I was like, I miss Steven. I hope
yes,
you're
you would. I
listening.
would hear it all the
We were
time.
like, I hope you're listening to us right now, Steven. Hello from our studio. Like things like that. Well, stay tuned. This is Homesick at Home on 103.1, our evening show, and we'll be back discovering Steven tonight.
Դուք ունեք հաղորդագրություն Vivaroից։ Հենց այսօր մեծ ուրբաթ մրցաշար Vivaro Blot-ում 1,200,000 դրամ մրցանակային ֆոնդով։ Մանրամասները vivaro.am կայքում։ Իդեպ Vivaro Blot-ում ամեն ուրբաթ խաղարկվում է 1,200,000 դրամ։
Для рекламы звоните 540002.
Երեք էլ դու ասում էիր սկսելու եմ վաղը։ Orange Fitness Premium Ակումբ։
Rafi, are you sick of being homesick?
I am. And you know, misery loves company.
Want to talk about that?
Let's talk about that.
Khilavel tanavorveles.
Homesick at Home.
English speaking show.
We're back.
We are back.
And we're back again.
Yes,
Are we
Steven.
sure we're back?
Yes, we're back, and we're sure that you are back for now.
Yeah.
And for how long are you planning to stay here, Steven John?
Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about anything that I wanted to promote while I was here as a guest on Homesick at Home. And on this, what would it be? The 27th is Wednesday, is that correct?
Shakespeare.
The Best of Shakespeare is going to be
Yeah,
at
I'm gonna finally see that.
Teatron on Sayatnova Chors. You can go there and watch. I think it's at
Sayat
7
Nova
p.m. What's that?
Sayat Nova
Number
4.
four.
I'm
Oh, yeah,
translating.
Side Nova 4,
your
just in case.
Armenian.
Yeah. Where if you're a lover of Shakespeare and you like to understand things through an artistic medium that relates to today's world, you can come get an experience of some pretty extreme theater done by my life partner and wife, mother of my child, Zara Antonian. She
Hello,
staged
Zara.
it with her
Nice.
students over the course of 4 years, and they had a premiere last year. Now they're invited to Tvoy Shans in Moscow, which is Your Chance Festival. It's like a festival of
Wow.
student productions.
This
Yeah, the Best of Shakespeare.
Shakespeare's.
They're going to play on
Wow.
the 30th of April. It's a crazy
Wow.
3 days they're taking to go there and do it.
You said they were working on this for 4 years.
Yeah.
Is that normal? I don't know. I don't know theater that well.
Well, it just depends on who you're working with, because some people will do it in a week. And I have. I mean, when I was in high school, I used to go to this place where we would do shows, literally like a Brecht show in a week. And it was torture,
Slightly improv or
No,
just,
no.
you know.
You have to remember your lines.
What I
Yeah.
what I heard from Steven's stories that Zara is really a maximalist, right?
She's it could be, yeah. I think
so she
maximalist is a
could
good
take
word.
4 years to make it just perfect,
Yeah.
and just the way that she wants to look it, right?
Yeah, she's
Am
she's,
I right?
She's definitely
Yeah.
ruthless in that
So
way.
it's, I bet it's really worth seeing it because I have heard so many awesome feedbacks, and and I can't wait to see it finally because every time it didn't work for me. But
Yeah.
this time I hope
I hope
finally.
it works too. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so what is it? Is it an adaptation of one of Shakespeare's classic plays? Or?
It's called The Best of Shakespeare, and it's just Shakespeare chopped up to the max. Like, Zara was collecting the text for subtitles because they're going to do subtitles when they're in Russia. And she said that there were some scenes where they took just lines from different parts of Hamlet and just pulled them all into one monologue. So it's really, it's like taking like a whole Bob Dylan career and making one album, you know, sort of just from all corners of the globe.
But do you have to be like a theater buff to really appreciate it? Because I rarely go to the theater, but it sounds very interesting.
No, I don't think you do, because another thing that Zara is really adamant about is creating a human quality to her work. And so even like I don't understand Armenian very well, and even not understanding, I've watched it maybe 15 times, and every time I end up laughing and crying and feeling really moved.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I
Very cool.
recommend it, just not even, from standpoint of being involved. Yeah. So I'm going to leave on the I'm leaving to do a concert on the 27th. I won't get to see it this time, but I'll be there in Moscow when they come to do it in Moscow.
Uh-huh.
And then
So-
I'll come back.
So what do you do in Moscow? Share a little.
What have I
bit.
been doing in Moscow?
Yeah. Your recent
Well,
new projects.
there was this idea that we had about a year ago when my friend showed me some of his music. I have this friend named Mitya Zolotov who decided that he at some point had a lot to say, and so he started writing a lot of songs and some text, like I don't even know what to call them, poems, just like, or like short stories kind of. And I heard some of these things. He gave me some of the recordings, and I thought, oh God, we have to do something with this. So I basically forced him and a few of our friends to get together this summer and create a new genre of music called junk folk, where we took all different kinds of things from everyone's houses, all different like old vases and baby toys, suitcases and
Sounds like
Stupki.
like a scary movie.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the dolls and
yeah, it really is. It's like
It's going to be a junkyard on the stage. You know?
like a scary antiques shop, sort of like the thing we're going for. And we play the music and we read texts that he wrote, and there's an interview of Stanley Kubrick, and there's a Gandhi. Did you know that Gandhi made a Columbia record one time?
No.
I didn't know this either, but it's called My Spiritual Message, and it's just Gandhi talking about what he thinks in terms of this power that's unseen and unfelt in the world, and how it creates a law of the world, the way that the world works, and to live within that law is the most rational thing that anyone can do, because it exists even though you can't see it or feel it or touch it, smell it, that kind of stuff. So we have that kind of text in it with this song. There's this song about life being pointless that we mix it up with.
Fantastic. Yeah.
there's a nice song about life being
Very uplifting. It sounds like. So wait, what's the junkyard angle? Are you guys playing music on the junkyard?
Yeah.
On all the different pieces that you're pulling together?
Exactly. Yeah, we just took a bunch of junk from all different places. I dug through some dumpsters and dug through some garage sales and stuff, and we made instruments, and we play on real instruments as well. But I play mandolin. There's a bassist and
Nice.
that kind of stuff.
What's the weirdest instrument?
The weirdest instrument?
Yeah, like a baby doll head on a string, kind of.
yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. What would it be? The weirdest instrument? We have some
A
pretty
doll's
weird
butt.
ones. A doll's butt.
What do you do with it? You slap it or blow on it?
I think maybe it's like I found this
It's a woodwind
hamster.
instrument.
I found this.
Everybody pictured it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It went straight to our imagination. Thanks for that one.
Nice idea. Try it next time.
There's a hamster wheel. I found a hamster wheel in a dumpster.
And there was a hamster that we
And I
play on.
spin it and rub some cardboard on it, and it goes tick, 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 tick. It's got a light coming from the inside of the box. It's kind of a pretty weird show. But
Can you
but-
play with an ear?
can I play with someone's ear?
Yeah.
No, I could play with my nose. Ready?
Ooh.
No, he's doing it with his mouth.
I feel like that's his nail on his tooth. But
It was my nail on the tooth.
that's the magic of radio, though, because you just never know.
Yeah, yeah.
That was totally
That
him
was my
cracking
nose.
his nose.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just broke Steven's nose. So,
Several times.
Steven, I have an important question to ask. A
yeah.
very important one.
Okay.
So, need to be serious.
Prepare yourself. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you miss me?
Oh,
Oh, God.
how can you
Not to-
even
okay.
ask that question?
Okay, and then what comes next? What are the 10
Of
things?
course, I missed you. You're not even gonna let me answer. I missed
So
you.
shy. What are the 10 things that you missed about Armenia the most?
The 10 things.
Yes.
10
yeah.
of them?
Since you've lived there here so long, so you have a longer list, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Okay, try.
Okay,
Try.
number 1, Ina MK.
Yeah,
Was-
thank
was-
you. I kind of tried to hint on.
It's an acceptable answer.
A
Yeah.
right
was,
answer.
second one was Mary.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Good.
that's
And she
easy.
came in.
Easy to say.
Smile, Mary.
Aram,
He
even
missed you.
though Aram says I'm not allowed to talk about him on the radio anymore, I miss
okay.
Aram.
Should we tell the story about what he wrote?
I don't think so.
Okay. Next time.
Can we just talk about Aram the rest of the time? We've got another 45 minutes, right?
No, he will kill us.
Come
Then
on.
okay, right. Then we're at number 4. Number 4 was, of course, my family. I miss my family. Like, it's crazy how when you have a child and then you are not with that child, it's almost like both of you don't have an organ. Like one of your organs is just missing,
Yeah.
and you're just like in pain all the time. It's really crazy. Sulugoni.
No, it's hello, George. Armenia speaking.
Wait, is that Sulugoni is a Georgian thing?
Yeah.
Bummer. Well, I really like it, and I like it specifically in Armenia because they have it in Russia and it's
Armenian
awful.
Suluguni is different. Okay,
It's very good.
okay.
It's very, very good.
Number 6.
Hash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had
nice.
4 portions of hash since I got back.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're
And he's
joking.
still able to walk and talk. It's perfect.
And he's so skinny. Next question
I
will
was
be,
with- I
how
did-
come are you so skinny? Okay,
I just
go
had
ahead.
rehearsal with my students at the institute. They did a run through of Don Juan from The Small Tragedies by Pushkin, and I started crying and realized that I missed them. I had missed them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I have 3 more. It's really hard now to choose which of the 3.
You can pick food. It's always easy.
Well, it's like the air
Or a
and the water
place.
are big ones. Air
That
and the
counts
water.
as 2. Yeah. So you've
Okay,
got-
yeah, that's 2, and then
And
Radiophone.
thank you, Stephen. You have all the right answers.
I'm so glad I passed.
So you get a 10-year-old visa.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We need to go on a break, but we'll come back after a short advertisement,
Okay.
discovering more and more of this amazing and mysteries that is Stephen Oxner. Rafi, but I miss Stephen.
Sorry, Ina, but he's gone back home.
But this is his home.
Is it?
Stepan Aritun! Homesick at home.
And now, Stephen,
that was for
you've
you,
heard,
It is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
what do you think
What do I think?
about it?
I want to cry. That's what I think.
Well, you're back home now.
Yeah, well, I am back
So-
here.
A
Yeah.
jingle dedicated to Stephen Oxner.
Thank you.
Right now.
Thank you, even
Right
though that
on
was
your-
really
And
child.
he's rude. He's mean.
That's very morbid.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It reminded me of Jafar.
Yeah.
It was like Jafar in the middle of a jingle. All of a sudden,
Is it? So
Is it?
is it your home?
I spent a
still?
lot of time watching Disney movies. Hence, we have another one about Rafiki,
Rafiki.
the Lion King.
Yeah, the Lion King.
Oh,
We also the
yeah.
old Rafiki.
the old Rafiki.
You'll hear it next time.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, good.
So Stephen, is it still your home?
This is-
Armenia?
Nothing. I haven't ever really said this on the air, but I have a tattoo.
Uh-huh.
I have an actual tattoo. It's like it's not a stick-on.
I didn't know
Can
that.
you show our listeners?
Where is
I
it? Where is it?
Into this camera.
Right. He's rolling up his pant leg now. Yeah.
I mean, I can't show it. No, no.
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. If it's not on your butt.
It's not on my butt.
Cool.
It's on the side of my body. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
go
since
ahead.
you've never seen it.
Will you describe where?
just
See it?
just a
nice.
second.
Yeah.
Ooh, da-da-da. I'm taking a
Wait,
picture.
Shoshana is going to be like, what
Mir.
happened? I went to America for 3 days. What is going on there? So,
Okay.
before I learned enough Russian history to know better, I was very shocked by the fact that the same word in Russian can mean peace
and
world, depending on the context. And it turns out that was a pretty lucky thing for the Soviet Union, and they used it, they exploited it in a really big way.
Just like the word, well, it's spelled differently, but peace and peace means a piece
Yeah.
and
a piece of
peas.
pie.
Like a piece of cake.
Kind of like
and
that.
World peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, yeah, but spelled exactly the same way.
Right.
And just depending on the context, it's one or the other. And I went really kind of crazy about the idea, as a lot of people did at the beginning of the Soviet Union, which I just didn't know about at the time. So I got a tattoo before I knew it. Now I'm a little bit kind of shy about my tattoo because it kind of also, my host mom, when I went home and had it, she said I looked like a prisoner because it looks like a prison tattoo.
Oh, nice.
But so the whole concept behind it at that time was I realized I was really missing in the city. I was living in the city for the first time, and I was really scared about not having contact with nature. And
Where's this?
in Moscow, it was when I was studying in Moscow, and I thought I was having lots of conversations with people, and I basically came intellectually to the conclusion that peace doesn't depend on where you are, even though sometimes it feels like it does,
This is
especially at times of war or at times of really high stakes business deals for people, or really high stakes danger situations. People forget that actually peace, it depends on you and not your situation. And so I thought, well, I'll get a tattoo so I never forget. And it's lucky, I have it. I've never forgotten. So to answer your question, home it's just wherever
The
you are,
world.
if you are where you are. I know you guys have that jingle about and coming back home, and that's true. And I've very, very many times wanted to talk a lot about Krishnamurti on this show, even though people would just get bored out of their minds, I'm sure. The thing is that you can never achieve it. That's the craziest part about being home, is you can never go there because you can only be there. And if you're trying to get there, that means you're not there. But getting there is just not trying.
My mind just exploded.
Well, and I'm not
Whenever
trying
you
to
need
say
to, whenever you need to
This
remember
was
about.
philosophy from Stephen Oxner.
Stephen,
And by the
whenever
way, we forgot to mention that there
But-
was a song specially on air
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
for
that was
Stephen's request. Right?
yeah,
Beautiful song.
very,
Tash Sultana, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
Tash Sultan.
And
What,
her
what made
song?
you decide on that song?
Well, I fell in love with. I'm a big podcast junkie, and I like NPR's Tiny Desk concerts. I watch them a lot, and I somehow came across, just a Tiny Desk concert of Tash Sultana playing, and it was really amazing to me because there is this thing about Andy Warhol. If you look at him, you can't really tell is he more feminine than he is masculine, or is he more masculine than he is
A
feminine?
little androgynous.
There
yeah.
are people like that, yeah. And she was this way, and for half the video I was thinking, that's just a really, really good-looking dude. And then at the end I realized, no, actually, it's a her. So that was the thing that was really grabbing me, at the same time as how she was able to loop everything. So everything you heard on that track was her doing it first, live, on her guitar, looping it, and then playing those sections back and soloing over them and everything. And I was just shocked by it. So I thought, and actually the first time I listened to that song, I thought right away about Mary. I thought, man, I think Mary might like this song. Well, no, I have this
she
thing that's
did.
complex about trying to make Mary like the music I like.
If she wrote it on air, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She doesn't put
Mary
things
is
on
the
here.
music authority. It has
Yeah.
to fly by
Steven,
Mary
I'm posting
first.
your picture. Do you like it? Steven nude. If you
kinda
want to
looks like
see
I
it,
lost my
just
mind.
right now,
Right.
get connected.
Like, who tries to get undressed without taking their suspenders off first?
And we also have a live broadcasting right now on our Radio One Facebook page.
not on the Facebook page. Seriously?
Yes.
Everywhere.
Whoa.
And we have
Everywhere.
lots of followers, by the way, and it's growing and growing. So we have kind of now statistics that we
You have statistics?
Yeah.
Someone's counting. Someone's counting.
Yeah, someone's
That's
Ardashik
unbelievable.
is counting.
It's amazing that
He's
happens.
got his
Hello,
abacus out.
Artash.
And he's just moving one over.
It's amazing you know that word. Abacus?
It's part of everyone's vocabulary.
This is the
isn't it?
counting thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember we had the girl over that was telling
Yeah,
about
she was teaching with the abacus. Abacus.
I like to think that every time you're kind of feeling flustered or you've lost your way and you want to think about peace, you just kind of display public nudity, right? You just kind of
Just
lift up
take
your
my-
shirt. You
Walk down the
can you
street.
look or do you
a
have to look
couple
in a
blocks.
mirror? Like, yeah. Find a highly reflective window storefront.
Well, luckily the tattoo has caused me a lot of trouble in my social life, so I haven't, ever forgotten that I have it.
I'm posting it. I'm just doing
See,
it
like
right
this,
now.
Yes.
This situation
Exactly,
is a
yeah.
perfect example of
Right.
why I never forget.
And now you can never forget.
Yeah.
No one else will ever forget as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Thank
in
you,
3
Ina.
years, someone will do like a Facebook memory, and it'll just keep going on.
Before the show, we were saying that Steven and I would keep talking and Rafi would just get out of the studio at some point. But it seems like you guys are having fun having a chat.
no, is
And,
Ina
and,
there?
and
That
I'm doing
was-
the social media.
Yeah. Ina's just on her phone, typing on her, typing on her computer.
Yeah.
She's got another job going on right now.
Steven,
What's up?
Ooh,
what are
another
the
deep question
last
coming on. I can feel it.
5 movies that have impressed you?
Oh, I've had.
Recently.
Wow, that's
Because we
a
haven't
great
spoken for a
question.
long time, and
Right.
I need some updates because I keep adding the movies that you advise in my to watch list.
Yeah, right. And
So.
I don't know if this is something I have to tell you, Rafi. I don't know if she actually watches them. She puts them in the list, but I don't
I
know if she actually ends
do.
up
It's a
watching.
very
it.
long list
So
now.
the list gets
With
longer and
nothing
longer.
scratched off.
Which I have with books, actually. Like when I hear about books, I like write it down right away, and then
Right.
like it just gets packed away in some diary that I put in some box. It's awful. Okay, so I can
Mostly
think of
it's the ritual
three.
of
I can
writing
think
it
of
down.
3 right off the top of my head because they were all very influential to me. One was, and they were all. It's crazy. They were all mainstream, basically like Hollywood films, which is shocking to me because usually I'm just disgusted by it all. But one was Patterson. Did you guys see Patterson?
This
did
is
not.
what I'm gonna watch
Yeah,
next.
yeah, I knew
Promise.
that
I'll,
would be
I'll
on
write
the
it.
list.
I'll
list
write it down
already.
for you over
Yeah,
here.
here we go.
Thank you,
Remind
Steven.
you next week.
Rafi, Steven, Rafi,
Sreven.
Steven.
So Patterson is amazing because Jim Jarmusch, he has this
Ah.
flair about him. We've talked about Only Lovers
taking
Left
notes.
Alive before, and how that
I
movie.
didn't realize
it's like
it was a Jarmusch film. Now it's even more interesting.
I didn't realize it was either until I got to it and started not downloading it.
Was it when you
Of
forgot
course,
your
saw it in the theater by paying full price for a ticket.
Steven? Was it when you lost your when you left your backpack?
Yeah, that was the day. Yeah, can you imagine? Here we go. Ina's
yeah. Go
gonna
ahead
get
and
some- Yeah.
tell us that story.
No, you tell it.
I never thought that things like this would happen in Moscow, a big city,
Yeah.
Well, Steven,
Not
our
just
dear
any big
friend
city.
Steven, went to the movies,
What's the movie?
and right before entering, right?
In the middle. I mean, it was in the middle of a shopping mall. I mean, it's like downtown, like tons of people.
Say Yerevan Mall, but in Moscow means 25,000 times bigger. Than
Wow. Yeah.
Well, no, this one's pretty tame.
Well,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
well.
it's like a shopping mall.
He just left his backpack with his passport, wallet, computer.
Just left it on. I
all
just
the
like set it down
documents,
somewhere.
and you left everything there, your life basically.
Basically everything I
And
need
he
to do
entered the
anything.
movies. He watched
Yeah.
the entire movie. He enjoyed it really.
I even went to the bathroom in the middle.
And
came
then all of a
back.
sudden he finds out that it's gone.
Yeah,
Where is it?
I stood up, looked down, and it wasn't anywhere under my seat. Or,
Something's missing.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh no. And I actually luckily I have this friend who's really good about not
Not
freaking out about
panicking?
things like that. Yeah, until you know, because you can go through a few channels of like finding out, did someone put it in lost and found? Is there any way like to I don't know. Yeah, there are like things you would think about trying to do. So I thought that right away. I was like, well, I'll just go to the guys, that I bought like the popcorn from and stuff, and ask them. And they said that I should talk to the people at the cashier's office. And so I went to like where they're selling tickets And they had it, yeah, luckily.
Yeah,
And
it's
so I didn't have to freak out.
It's an amazing story, I think.
But I can only imagine. Yes, this is the most interesting thing. This is Stephen said something in the first time they came on the air about a tornado, and now they're talking about how he forgot his backpack and found it 2 hours later. It's a very interesting.
I was picturing,
episode.
because when it started, I was picturing like he would come back and there would be a bomb squad surrounded around the backpack, thinking it's a terrorist
That's
attack.
so
You
funny.
know, like
Yeah, that
who
did
leaves a
happen to me in
backpack
DC
in the middle
though.
of the mall? You know,
That happened to me in DC with my
Really?
mom. We locked our rollerblades up outside the Holocaust
I love it.
Museum.
That's the beginning of a great story, though. Whenever you lock your rollerblades. I love rollerblades, by the way. Though.
This was Homesick at Home show. Steven.
Yeah. You know.
What?
Can I hear the rollerblade story, though? I'm very curious.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a really kind of a stupid thing to do. We went to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. It was Smithsonian Museum.
Smithsonian.
And we locked our rollerblades up to a bench right outside the door, and went to the museum, had an awful time, and then came back out. And there was a
Sounds
whole
like fun.
group of cops, and serious cops surrounding it,
Serious? Are there
trying to
funny
figure out if it was a
cops?
bomb. Huh?
Are there funny cops ever?
There's-
Not serious.
Are you kidding?
There's strippers dressed as cops. I've seen films.
Those are pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so film number 2, Manchester by the Sea, or the Shore, by the Sea, I think. That is I went through a period of time just about like 3 days before I left America, which I haven't even told this story to you guys yet, but 3 days before I left America, I started crying a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird because I had been away
Do you want to
from.
say hello to your mom and parents and family?
Yeah, hey mom, hey dad. I love you
Steven's
guys.
family.
Yeah, it's my mom had kind of a hard time in January. She had a mini stroke.
Oh.
Or what they're calling a mini stroke, but that's the thing. A lot of times you just don't know. And I want to write a play about this actually, because when I walked in, my mom was having like short-term memory loss, and every 5 minutes repeating the same questions, even every like 2 minutes, same questions. And we just had circular conversations for hours and
Like
hours
it
and
just
hours.
short-circuited the
Yeah,
brain.
yeah. And so there was a clog, somewhere that didn't provide enough blood to a portion of the brain, and that happens. It's I think it's a pretty serious thing if you can't get any kind of care or supervision. But for her, she was really lucky to be in a place where she could, like call and have people take her to the hospital, and everything was cool basically. But the weird thing is that I have 2 doctors in my family, my brother and my stepdad, and both of them, through the course of these circular conversations of her asking these questions like, so did I have a stroke, for example? Both of them going from, well, we don't know yet, and we hope to find out, but we may never know, to, within like a half an hour or an hour, I don't know, hour and a half of having this circular conversation saying basically yes. Which was unbelievable to me to watch, because I was just a little bit in shock, just watching it all, holding my mom's hand, just trying to like be there, not answer too many questions because I'm no doctor, but yeah, so I had this crying thing with the Manchester by the Sea, and the crazy thing about Manchester by the Sea is it made me cry like 5 times, but I was also laughing all the time. It was a really funny and really, really, really sad movie. I mean, just as sad as things get.
I want to know what makes Steven Oxner cry. So
You'll have to watch that film again. I've got it written down here.
Yeah,
for you.
thank you,
Don't worry.
Rafi. You're
vengeance
so caring.
This is kind of a sharp thing coming from that side of the computer.
Steven!
Okay, and the last one that I have to talk about, because I think it's a revolution. It's a revolution of the way of thinking about art, I think, is Arrival. Arrival, which was nominated for lots
I've
of
watched
Oscars,
that
which I
one.
usually just can't stand.
I really liked that film.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
What did you guys think about it? Because it was unbelievable to me. Mary's checking out my tattoo.
We have the picture on our page. Yeah, well, yeah, I loved the movie, and we have even mentioned it a couple of shows
We were going to
before,
discuss it
remember?
with another one of our guests.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give too much away. Because if I
Come on. I mean,
nobody's here. Just 3 of us.
there's the 3 of us and the few thousand people listening.
well, Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I understand that you don't want to give things away, but
I thought it was a very human and slash philosophical film wrapped up in the idea of space aliens. But I think the space aliens weren't really. It was just creating the scenario for us to understand other ideas about how the human mind works and what our perception of reality is.
yeah, that's the thing. Is because it can be anything. I think that this is like a step that we can make. Joseph Campbell talked with George Lucas for a long time before George Lucas made Star Wars, the first 3. And what they talked about was how the frontier now, the place where like 13-year-olds used to go to the jungle for a few days when they had to become a man, you know, it was like the unknown place. Or like in Olympia, it was above the clouds in the mountains where humans can't really live for a very long time. That's where the gods live. Now it's space. And so to use space over the past few decades, or even I think ever since people started telling stories with film, to use space as a channel of fear and war has been very, very productive for a lot of people to make a lot of money and get this certain reaction out of people that justifies violence. But this movie used the same mechanisms. It was just like amazing special effects and unbelievable beauty. Remember when they... So I'm going to give a little bit away. So if you haven't watched the movie, close, just plug your ears right now.
Yeah, stay tuned, but plug your ears.
When that dude just put the bomb inside the shell, and then the aliens, they specifically made it so that the humans survived and that one of them died. It's an expression of equanimity that humans are able to understand, and this is how we see that humans are able to understand, because who made the movie? It's not aliens that made the movie. Humans made this movie. So we're showing a display of equanimity, and we're showing a display of how we can be, even in the face of people threatening us, completely peaceful.
You see, Stephen always has his own view of whatever he sees.
That's the thing. It's
This
not,
is
it's
what
not my
I
view.
That was taken right after someone else's review.
I just read that on Huffington Post.
You just read that in the description
I
of
did
the
not read
movie.
it. I didn't even watch it.
Okay. You ruined the whole legend, Stephen.
Oh, yeah, you guys are fun.
What is your success story right now?
My success story. Right now?
What does that mean?
What does that mean, Ina? Can you tell me?
Like, what success has he had right now? Or
Yeah.
what does success look like for him in the immediate future?
Whatever you want, you can answer.
What is the success story? Okay, now I think you've given me a platform to tell the tornado story, because it's in the past, but it was a success because we did it.
Go ahead.
My father, the day I came home, I flew into Colorado Springs, which was cool because usually we fly into Denver and it's a long drive, and when you have a 1.5-year-old, after 24 hours of flying, then driving 2 hours is a little bit tricky. So on this very quick trip home, my dad was telling me about how there was a tornado in Georgia.
Wow.
A tornado that ripped through a building that he had put...
Which rarely happens, in Georgia. A tornado?
I think, it's pretty rare. It's not like
it's
Tennessee.
Not known, it's not tornado country
Kentucky,
down there.
right. Yeah. So, and afterwards they even called that one high winds or something. But basically it was strong enough to rip the roof off of a building.
Wow.
And inside the building, my dad makes cubicles. So he's it's pretty great. It's a pretty great job. He makes them,
Cubicle engineer.
packs them. He's a cubicle engineer. Packs them, takes them in big trucks to a different state and installs them. That's that's been his job since the year before I was born.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's his business, and he has no employees because he's been kind of on a little bit halfway retired for the past 4 or 5 years. All of a sudden, this thing happens, and a whole building of them gets destroyed overnight because it rained all night. There was no roof. Then the next day, all day, and it's like what we make this stuff out of. It's cardboard, OSB, and OSB is like glue and sawdust and carpet. That's like what it's made out of. So if it rains, it rains for two days, it's just ruined. Yeah. So within a month, they said they wanted it in a month and a week. My dad had to remake this entire building of cubicles.
Wow.
It was 178 workstations, so 178 desks with walls between them. he had to do that, and he has no employees. And my brother, who used to be his employee, got a really cool engineering job making rockets in California. So I was home, and I was like, oh gosh.
You need to do
Can
that.
I reschedule everything? I was like, yeah, I think I have to help him. And so I did, yeah. And we did. I mean, it was crazy. I flew my family back to Moscow, and 2 days later turned around and flew right back to Colorado and kept working with my dad
Crazy.
in our factory, the middle of winter, like just straight up simple living, working in a factory with my dad and working really hard because we had a really, really tight deadline, And we went to
A
Georgia.
magician.
What's that?
A magician.
A magician.
That's
Wow.
what.
Making
That's
it
who
all
you
happen.
Yeah. We got there and we did it, and then
Good.
drove to New York, and I flew back to Moscow.
are. Bravo.
Yeah, that was a success.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for your story. And what are the
We're still going with more questions.
Yes, of
It's
course. What
amazing.
would you take to deserted
A deserted island.
a deserted island if you were an Armenian?
What
That's
would
a nice
I?
twist on the question. I haven't heard that version.
What would I take with me to a deserted island if I were an Armenian?
Yes.
One thing, yeah?
One thing? Do I get one thing?
No, anything.
Anything.
I could
Alright,
take as
anyone-
many-
yeah.
Shawarma.
It would be very simple. I would take all of Armenia when it was the Armenia from sea to sea.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
I would take the whole country with me. And not the country as it is now. I would take the whole country that
Tasovzervar.
it used to be. What's that?
I said Tasovzervar.
Tasovzervar.
Translate,
It's like
Rafi.
10
From 10 to 0?
from 10 to 0.
You
What
get
is-
the 10 points, we get 0
Oh.
after your answer.
I get 10, you guys get 0?
Yeah.
What? Why? Did you answer the
I
question?
was thinking of bringing one of those Horovats things right there.
So he can start a business.
I can
Barbecue?
cook, I can cook endangered sea turtles, coconuts.
Endangered sea turtles.
Steve, I
That's
think
awful.
Rafi wanted to know how it all started for you here.
Ah, Radio Volcano.
Yeah, I'm
Because we
always
have like
curious,
7
yeah.
more minutes to go, and you can tell a little bit about that, and then say whatever you want to say to us.
Well, because
maybe.
let's just say, like, for the people that don't know, this show has gone through a couple iterations, right? Before it was the American in Yerevan,
Yeah.
and that's how
And
I was.
Steven was
intro-
alone.
And
here.
Stephen was alone, so
I was a little
I'm
bit
curious,
alone.
how did that all get started? How did Stephen get his own radio station
And then
here?
the door opened, and I entered the studio singing, "You're not alone." Yeah, this was
And I want to know that part too. Yeah.
that's
Well,
how it
it
was.
It's a pretty amazing thing, because Ina's a Libra, so she has a certain kind of control over me. My mom's a Libra too. And
Are you serious?
Yeah.
This
Oh
is
my.
for the first time
I gotta tell you, I gotta say these things now. What happened? Okay, so the very beginning is I'm unfortunately still a smoker, and before I did Sentenci Pantelia Karmanova, the Maxims of Pantelia Karmanov at the Puppet Theater. It used to be a part of the Rep there. It's this one-man show about.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you saw it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
you
very
saw
good.
it.
I liked it.
Oh, we did it in English once, and you came.
I
Thank
was
you
there
so
for
much
that one
coming.
episode. Yeah.
Oh man, and
It
you
was
came
great.
too,
It was
Ina.
fantastic.
Of course.
Thank you, guys. Man, you're so supportive.
Like
So yeah,
sending a
so while I was
kiss.
doing that show,
Oh, thanks, guys.
For those of
I'm
you
in the middle
guys
of the fire,
who
line
are-
of fire right here.
who are
Just
not
getting kisses on my
watching.
cheeks.
Please go ahead.
so before the show, I was going through this period. I had about like a year and a half when I was doing the show, and I would lose my voice in the middle of it, just right in the middle. And it's a one-man show, so
and then just be talking with your hands for the
No,
radio.
I would, like,
is it?
just-
Start to play the guitar.
no. I would just do like this straight up old Soviet thing and just growl. Just growl the rest of the show.
Soviet thing.
Yeah, like Vysotsky or something, like when he lost his voice because he was too strung out. Yeah, just. I wasn't strung out ever, I've never been strung out, so I don't know. But I was losing my voice, and so I had like this suspicion, it was really weird, that if I just smoked one cigarette that day before the show, then everything would be better. And so I went up to the balcony, and there was this guy who was rehearsing that day in the rehearsal room and he was on the balcony smoking. He was rehearsing what would be, I
And
think, one of the coolest shows of Yerevan.
He
that
was the
is.
one that we're not supposed to pronounce.
And then
his
we're not supposed to
name on-
pronounce. What's this? Yahweh. Yahweh
Tot
was
që
sitting on the
imeni
balcony. Aram was up there. He was smoking, and I asked him. I bummed a cigarette from him, and we started talking. He was like, "Why are you speaking Russian to me?" And I was like, "Well, because I don't really know Armenian." And we started talking, and he was like, "Well, sometimes we have, different things that we have to do in our studio in English. So let me take your number down." And a week later, he called and he said that Shushanik said she wanted to have an English-speaking show, and she thought it would be cool to meet me. So I came, and really what happened is like two things. First, I came here, and like every single person who I met was an incredible person.
Yeah,
and
they're awesome here.
I wanted to stay, and I felt like I found for the first time a place where I could be like in my friend mode, because I have my home mode for sure. That's how I had it for like a year and a half living here with no friends, and then eventually I was like, oh, now I have friends, and really interesting, cool friends. Then Ina came along as a guest while I was stumbling through. I haven't checked the website recently, but I hope that those first recordings are not on the website, because I think the
Why?
first
They are
episodes that I
cool.
did by myself, which were like, I think some of them were like 2 hours long. It was awful. Just
Wow.
awful. And me talking about nothing.
Was that your first time on the radio?
The most boring things. Yeah.
So you're just winging it.
I'd never been
whatever it is.
interviewed or anything, yeah. Yeah, no, I had like sheets and sheets of paper, but Aram and Gord were like, you need to get rid of that paper as fast as possible. You
Right.
sound like you're reading the whole time.
And that's what he told me afterwards when I was preparing text with points number 1, and I was reading what I should speak. Hello, good evening, and dear listeners, and you know what?
Well, no, it was usually when you were doing like really interesting historical information, which I wanted you to say anyway, so it didn't matter too much for me.
But see, you taught me.
Yeah.
And this is a confession episode, I guess. So,
Yeah, we're confessing.
All right,
So,
let me leave you guys
right
to it.
now it's the time. It was a time of growth for me, thanks to Steven. So thank you.
Thank you, Ina.
I'm saying it right now, right
Yeah.
here on air.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it wasn't you and your comments and advice, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Do you see where she is? Sitting at the
She's at the
I'm
commander's
the
deck.
DJ.
Yeah.
She's got like 7 computers.
She's behind the wheel of this ship, right?
She's got
of
light
course, Mary's
speed in front
helping
of
me a
her.
lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's how it started.
Okay.
Oh, so that's
Group digital hug. Should we just?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's finish up this. We have one more minute, and that's
Oh
it.
no, that's it?
Yeah,
All the guests, they always talk about how fast it goes. I feel like I didn't say anything I wanted to say.
I know.
We have 1 minute. If you can all compress that down into just a few seconds. Exactly. That was all it. Mark.
Last words on air with Steven. Yeah, what is
Well,
the last
no.
thing you want to say?
Well, I have to say that I know I'm a guest, and symbolically, that's a little bit of like a parting from the situation that we created ourselves, and I'm so glad that we did, because it has been such a strong part of my life over the past 2 years being here at Radio Vaughn. But
gonna
I
cry
have to
now.
say,
Excuse me, but I'm gonna cry.
No. I have to say that there is something I think possibly my desire is to have something that's even more interesting to us in the future, just in a different format. So the different format would be like on the website, and we haven't worked out any of the details of that yet. But I'm here as a guest only to promote what may be a future collaboration.
Will bring.
Yeah, which will be worldwide and will have, I hope, incredible effects on the way that this station and this the people who listen to this station live their lives, because we do have plans. So no one go away from the idea that Stephen is a part of Radio
Yeah.
Vaughn. I'm not leaving Radio Vaughn.
Steven, we're not letting you go anywhere. So
I'm glad.
yeah.
It's cool. Armenia has this thing about grip. Have you noticed?
We're
They find
Just
you.
try to leave.
They hold on to
yeah.
you.
we'll keep growing and growing and growing permanently.
Yeah.
Right?
What else can we do? There's nothing else to do.
This was Homesick at Home, a nostalgic episode this Friday night, dear listeners. 103.1 on Radio 1, always number 1. We're having fun. What else? What else is rhyming? Thank you, guys. I had a really good time with you, Steven, with you, Rafi.
It was fantastic.
Have a great Friday night, you all, and have a great weekend. We'll see and be with you next Friday with someone new. And Steven, this is still your home, okay?
Oh, I feel so at home.
Yeah. So we're not gonna refuse this idea anyway. Thanks.
Good night,
Thank you. Good night.
Kisses.
Good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene.